The equation of a circle can be derived from the distance formula and from the Pythagorean theorem. So when you look at this equation, you're going to realize it looks very similar to our distance formula, just slightly altered to be specific to circles. So the standard form for a circle is given to us by the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. H and k together are going to be the center. You need to be really careful, and if you remember from last year, when you have an equation and you have a minus sign in it, the values are going to be the opposite. So if it says x minus 2, it really means that h is positive 2. Or if it says x plus 3, it means h is negative 3. R is going to be the radius. So when you look at it, they're going to be giving you the radius squared. So be really careful that you look, if you're trying to identify the radius, you're going to have to take the square root of r. X and y will represent all of the points on the actual circle. All right, so we're going to write the equation for a circle. It has a center of 5, negative 3, and a radius of square root of 158. So I'm going to start by just writing the equation out. So we have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we are going to need to substitute in for h, k, and r. H, you're going to look at the x coordinate of the center. So that would be x minus 5 squared plus y minus, our k value is the y coordinate of the center. So we're going to plug in negative 3 for k, and then r is our radius. So we're going to plug in for a radius. That would be the square root of 158 squared. All right, so x minus 5 squared is as simplified as it gets. Can't change anything about that. However, on the y minus negative 3, when you subtract a negative, that becomes a positive, and that's why it becomes y plus 3, and it looks the opposite of what it is. And then the square root of 158 squared, the square and the square root undo each other, so that just becomes 158, and that is the equation of your circle. A circle has a diameter of 32 and to center at 9, 0. What is the equation? All right, so we're going to do x minus h. H is our x coordinate of the center, so that's 9. So x minus 9, change the color back, squared, plus y minus, now we need to look for k. K is the y coordinate of the center, so that would be 0 squared equals r squared. R is the radius. We are not given the radius, we are given the diameter, but you should know from our last 2 units that if the diameter is 32, the radius would be half, which is 16. So we're going to do 16 squared. So all we want to do is clean this up and simplify where possible. X minus 9 squared does not simplify, so that's x minus 9 squared plus, I don't need to write y minus 0 squared, that's just going to become y squared, and then 16 squared is 256. So that becomes the equation for this circle. All right, create the equation for the circle graph below. All right, so same type of problems that we've been doing, except for we have to pick out the center and we have to pick out the radius. So the center, we're just going to count. We can see it right here. So let's look at those coordinates. We went to the right 3 and down 2, so that makes our center 3, 2, 3, negative 2. And then the radius, we're just going to have to count the length. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So our radius is 5. So now we're just going to plug in. x minus h, which is the x-coordinate of the center, squared, plus y minus k, which is the y-coordinate of the center, which is -2 squared, equals the radius squared. Simplify everything. X minus 3 squared does not simplify. Y minus -2 becomes y plus 2 squared, and 5 squared is 25. So there is your equation. All right, for example 4, decide if the point 3, -1 lies on the circle. So if it lies on the circle, when you plug it in, you will get 56 equals 56. All right, so if you get, and we're just going to write out here's the possibilities. You could get 56 equals 56, which would mean it's on the circle. You could get a number that is larger than 56. So if it's bigger than 56, that means it would be outside the circle. Or you could come up with a number that is smaller than 56, which means it would be inside the circle. So we're just going to plug it in and see. Remember that 3 is the x and -1 is the y. So we're not changing the h and k, we're plugging in for x and y. So that gives us 3 plus 4 squared plus -1 minus 2 squared. And we're wondering, does that equal 56? 3 plus 4 is 7, and 7 squared is 49. -1 minus 2 is -3, and -3 squared is +9. 49 plus 9 is 58, and 58 is larger than 56, so this point will fall outside the circle. So no, it is not on the circle. It is outside the circle because 58 is larger than 56. All right, on this one, we are finding the equation of a circle if the center is at -7, 1 and the area of the circle is 225 pi. Okay, so to write the equation, we need the center, which we have the center, -7, 1, that's our h and our k. The other thing we need is our radius. And they didn't give us our radius, but they did give us the area. You should know that the area for a circle is pi r squared. And we know that the area of this circle is 225 pi. So I'm going to solve for r. So to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by pi. That's going to give me r squared equals 225. The pi's are just going to cancel out. And then I'm going to take the square root, and the square root of 225 is 15. So now I do know my radius is 15, so now I'm ready to plug in. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The last thing to do is clean this up. So x minus -7 becomes x plus 7 squared. Y minus 1 does not simplify. 15 squared is 225, which really, we didn't even have to find the radius. All we really needed was r squared. So we could have stopped right here and not even taken the square root. All right, last one for this is to determine the equation that contains the point 4, -2, and has a center at -10, -4. So on this one, we know the center, so we have our h and k value. But we do not have the radius. But because they gave us a point, which is xy, we should be able to substitute in and find that radius. So I'm going to plug 4 in for x, -2 in for y, -10 in for h, and -4 in for k, and we're going to solve for that r. So we're going to do 4 minus -10 squared plus -2 minus -4 squared equals r squared. So I'm just plugging in. 4 minus -10 is 14, and 14 squared is 196. -2 minus -4 squared becomes 2 squared, which is 4. And that gives us 200, which is r squared. So I can take the square root of that and get 10 root 2 or the approximate decimal, but in the equation it's r squared, so we really don't even have to go any further. So now we're actually ready to write our equation. So we have x minus h. So write that a little bit smaller. Let's just do it over here. So x minus h, which is negative 10 squared, plus y minus k, which is negative 4 squared, equals r squared, which we just figured out was 200. And let's just clean this up. X plus 10 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 200. And that is our equation.